listening to Reverb Radio.
Hey yo, Josh, let me get a little bit of reverb.
Yeah. J Will.
Yeah, I'm about that lifestyle. I talk green work, repping it all over. It's right on the t-shirt. Been for a lifetime. Yeah, that's a long pass. Figure I would show some love right on the podcast. Turn this up loud and make sure you don't do nothing else. Cause if you're listening to us, then you're improving your health. My name is J Will. Welcome, repping it,
J Will.
been for a repping it, been for a
What is up, everyone? Welcome to another friendly edition of Wrestling Reverb. Woo, 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 woo. Me and Kevin just talked for like 20 minutes because 2020 is... What would be 2020 in a word, Kevin?
Yikes.
Yeah, it's yikes. There's a lot going on. We're talking about Marty Jannetty. We're talking about COVID. We're talking about everything else going on in the world. We talked about, hey, something good. I'm playing a lot of Fall Guys, and I can't stop playing it. Kevin can't get it because he's a stinky Xbox user. So,
I thought we were being friendly. You said friendly.
Well, that soon went out the door. He's a stinky Xbox player, guys. Poo, yuck, gross. No, I'm playing a lot of Fall Guys. Can't stop.
I barely even play the damn thing anyway. I'm not a big video game guy. But yeah, I'm seeing clips of this Fall Guys on the Twitter, and you sent me an article I'm going to have to peruse. It looks like it's colorful, and it looks kind of like random.
Yeah.
And it does look like fun. I will not lie. I think it looks fun.
Nice party game. You can play with the boys, and then just kind of have a good time. And it's very mindless. I can just chuck on some music and just kind of waste 7.5 hours like I did yesterday. Up till 3 a.m, just like looking at the time, and I'm like, oh shit, it's very early in the morning. I should probably hit the hay, get some sleep. So I played for another 3 hours or something like that. Who really knows? I just played a lot of it, and I cannot stop playing it. I was playing it while watching NXT. We're, of course, recording just after NXT/AEW. I was playing it while watching that. I know you were at work, Kev, but let's talk about Pat McAfee and Adam Cole. What was it? 2 weeks ago, we seen this kind of worked shoot thing happen on... What was it, Pat McAfee's podcast or his radio?
Yeah, the Pat McAfee show.
It's like a YouTube
podcast.
show or something. I don't know what it is, but it's Pat McAfee's show where he talks about football and wrestling, I guess.
I mean, he talks about a lot of things, a lot of sports related things, but I think that's like the big thing is, he's a former football player. He's obviously dabbled in wrestling. He was on the NXT TakeOver pre-shows for a while. So that's like the crux of it. And yeah, he had Adam Cole on the show 2 weeks ago now, and things got testy, and they exchanged some words.
Whether it's, well, obviously it's a big work, but I'm not fussed about that. It was done really well, to be honest. If everyone has probably seen the clip by now, but there was some swearing going on, some cussing, mainly on Adam Cole's part. He said I don't know exactly what he said, but there was some swearing and stuff going on.
Just a big fuck you, Pat.
Yeah, basically. But I liked it. I don't mind a worked shoot, whatever you want to call it. Did you enjoy it, or did you think it was cheesy?
No, I thought it was really great. I thought it was. I mean, I've known Pat through football, through some of his other work before he even made it onto NXT TV, before he even made it on the wrestling radar. And he is he's a talented dude. He's very. He seems like he's made for pro. He seems like a character. He's a gimmick.
I think he could be a
And
great
he's
heel,
made
to be honest.
oh yeah, he's made for this pro wrestling business. I think. I know. Obviously, he was an all-pro punter in football, but I think he found his true calling here. And yeah, here's how I'll measure the success of that whole thing. I had people that know Pat McAfee as a football player that don't follow or watch wrestling or know anything really about it. And I have people that I know are talking like, "Oh my God, dude, you see Pat McAfee and that wrestler guy?" And they're watching the clip and they're like, "Holy shit, this is crazy." So there it worked. So that means it worked. It
Yeah,
worked.
it's all about hooking the casual audience, especially to NXT, which is,
Yeah.
if anything's lacking from NXT, it's probably that casual audience. Wrestling fans are watching NXT, no doubt, but wrestling fans also don't really like, in a general sense, don't really like this kind of angle. I like it personally. I thought it was very well done. They had stuff on NXT. I know you didn't get to watch NXT because you're at work, Kev.
I
But
saw the clips. I saw the clips in the main event though, because again, people are texting me like, "Yo, what happened? Like, what's going on?" And so I saw the clip of him. He punted Adam Cole.
Yeah.
And Adam Cole sold out like $1 million. Want to point that out? He is literally one of the best on the planet. But yeah, McAfee, it'll be interesting. I didn't think they would go this route. I didn't think McAfee would be the aggressor necessarily, and kind of like the heelish side. That was a heel move right there.
That was a heel move. Which is
So-
probably the smart thing to do, though, in an NXT crowd, because you're not going to cheer Pat McAfee over Adam Cole, so
That's
why
true.
try? Why try?
And I definitely think there are a lot of people that don't like Pat McAfee because he is such like an over the top dude. I get that.
Yeah.
So it probably is the best way to play it, and I think you're gonna have a lot of people tuning in. I think this is like really smart if you're trying to get some new eyes on and the viewer numbers up. I think this is smart because Pat McAfee has one of the like most rabid, strongest fan bases. For someone who just has like right now is just a podcaster, like he's not employed by the NFL anymore. He worked for Barstool Sports for a while. Now he's just his own man. But he does ridiculous numbers on that show. He has people following his every word, every tweet, every bet, every whatever he does. People are hanging on him. And I think they're going to follow him through this journey to see what happens. Even if he ends up getting his ass kicked, I think people are going to watch it.
Yeah, and you'd be absolutely stupid out of your mind if you're putting this on TakeOver. Put this on NXT TV. I think if they're gonna have like some kind of a match of fight of some kind, which I think is where it's going, I don't think you should put it on TakeOver. It'd be silly, wouldn't it? In this era of NXT, AEW being on at the same time. I know AEW is going to be, Dynamite's going to be on at the same time as TakeOver from my understanding because of NBA. So,
They booted Dynamite on Saturday. Yeah, I agree because I think that they're not going to have a like wrestling match. I mean, they will.
Yeah,
but it
would be like a fight. It would be billed as
we've come to
fight.
expect a certain level of wrestling excellence from takeovers. So I think if you put a Pat McAfee Adam Cole fight on a takeover, it inevitably won't live up to takeover expectations. But if you give it like a 2 or 3 week build up and you put it on NXT TV, it's going to be red hot and it's going to be fun. Like, McAfee's been training. He has his own ring set up in Indianapolis. He's been training for a while. I think Rip Rogers or someone was training him. He loves the business. That is so clear.
He's a fan.
Just listening to him.
You can
He's a
tell.
fan.
He can tell he's a fan. You can tell he's got that pro wrestling mentality behind him. Even just the way he talks. He does it in his own way, but you can tell even with that little what would you call it? Encounter with Adam Cole on NXT just today. You can tell that he's got in it, the way he pushed referees, the way he kind of held up his arms, the way he was doing things. You can tell he's watched a lot of wrestling, which is a good thing. You don't want a celebrity or sports star to come in. There's nothing worse than seeing someone that clearly isn't a fan and they don't know how it works. There's nothing worse than that to me. I don't mind celebrity involvement.
And they do that
I like celebrity involvement in wrestling. I understand why it's happening. But at least on the celebrities' part, the ones that aren't afraid to kind of learn pro wrestling or are fans of pro wrestling or at least understand it to kind of give it their all. Because there's been a lot of celebrities that have come in and you can just tell Oh
Yeah,
man.
like I don't mind if you don't like if you're not like if you don't take to the ring like a fish to water, or you don't like you're not like an absolute stunner on the mic, but you could tell when some celebs come in, and obviously there's been so many throughout the history of WWE. There's some that just come in and they're doing it for like a little bit of exposure to a different audience, but they don't care about what they're doing and they don't care about the fans and they don't want to be there. But we've seen a lot of celebrities that have like gotten in there and actually like mixed it up and done some really good stuff.
Yeah, like Maria Menounos, she's one that's like come in and like did really well for a celebrity. Maria's
Yeah,
someone that I
absolutely.
remember. She wrestled at WrestleMania, tribute to the troops. I think she had like a couple of matches on Raw. And
Yeah, and
she
they were
was
never,
someone that's like not too bad for a celebrity.
Nah, who was it? Stephen Amell when he came in
Yeah.
briefly. He's done even since since everybody since like Cody and them left WWE. He's even done some stuff with the Bullet Club.
Yeah.
With I don't know where they really were. I guess Ring of Honor.
Yeah, I think
But,
it was.
he's done a lot of wrestling stuff. There's been a long list of celebrities, and like a lot of people that you wouldn't think do love pro wrestling. Pro wrestling, I think, is still for some people a guilty pleasure. I think a lot of people are still a little quiet about it.
Yep.
But there are more wrestling fans out there than you think.
I agree. But yeah, I'm into the Pat McAfee, Adam Cole stuff. I think it could create something different. That if NXT is lacking anything, it's that kind of it is wrestling 101, and there's elements of comedy in there, but there's not really elements of like pure entertainment, I don't think, in NXT.
It's always been the wrestling purist show, and sometimes that is to its detriment, and you're not going to get the casual hook when obviously the wrestling is great if you're like a fan of the wrestling, but if you want the entertainment that Raw and SmackDown give you, you really don't see it, in consistent form on NXT. In spurts, sure, but not consistently. It's never been like their MO to be the sports entertainment brand, but this is a little sports entertainment-y, and I think that's what I don't think that hurts. I think you could still be the wrestling brand, but still incorporate some of the great entertainment aspects that have made Raw and SmackDown the institutions that they are.
Yeah, I'm here for it. We are on the road to SummerSlam 2020. We don't technically know. There's been lots of rumors actually where SummerSlam is happening. We've heard stuff on a beach or on a boat, or will it just be at the PC? We really don't know yet. Or somewhere up northeastern US. I don't know what that means. But because I don't understand anything about America in a geography standpoint. But somewhere up there. So who really knows where it is? However, SummerSlam's shaping up quite nicely, I would say. Let's talk about Drew and Randy, because that's been kind of going for the last couple of weeks. I'll just come right out and say it. I hope Randy Orton wins at SummerSlam. Would you be on the same page as me?
I don't think I'll be disappointed either way. I mean, that's a huge, if Drew McIntyre retains, that's a huge win. You just beat a 12, 13, 14-time world
13,
champion,
yeah.
a surefire Hall of Famer, and
First
still
valid
one of the best
Hall of
in the
Famer.
game.
Oh
yeah.
valid.
And still one of the best to do it. Like right now on the planet, he's still one of the best. So that's a huge win. But if Orton wins, like Orton, it's the same thing. Orton's been doing some of the best work of his career right now, and that's how else do you award the best work of someone's career and being the best act on the roster without that's what you get. You get championships. I wouldn't hate to see it at all. I've always liked Randy Orton. He's one I've always. And I gravitate more towards him now, I think, because he's one of the last stalwarts of the era that we grew up in. He's one of the last remaining guys from like the 2000s.
Like a consistently there guy. Yeah,
I
agree.
Obviously you see the guys like Cena and they come and they go. Kane, Undertaker, they come and they go. But Randy Orton's there every week. Orton's there every week, and he's busting his ass, and he's doing so well. So yeah, if they put the belt on him, I'm all for it. It makes sense. That wouldn't be just like a career achievement award. It would be a you're the best in the business right now award.
Yep, I'm here for it. I think this was the only route they could really go with SummerSlam. There was no one else for Drew really to go with. There was no one more worthy, I think, than Orton. Coming off of the stuff with Edge and everything like that.
Yeah.
So I'm very much here for it. Obviously, Asuka's fighting Bayley next week to If she wins, she'll advance to Banks at SummerSlam. I think that's the way we're going. It's pretty clear. Asuka Banks, if all things fall aligned, that's what we're getting at SummerSlam. I'm not definitely not opposed to seeing them work again because they work very nicely together. Now, I think the question is that there's probably arguments as to who would win. There's arguments to Asuka because Asuka obviously is going to kind of... I kind of want to see her kick the shit out of both Bayley and Sasha, but there's also an argument to kind of go with maybe they're just going to keep the belt on Banks for a little while now because Baszler's kind of lurking in the shadows. There's a lot of elements here. I don't really know where it's going to go. I can understand that we're going to get another great match at SummerSlam between the two, but I don't know. Where do you see this going? Do you see the belt staying on Banks?
It's kind of the same thing where I'm like, I don't think I'll be, too fussed either way. But I'd probably rather see them bring the belt back to Asuka. I know that I don't mind, them putting all the belts on Bayley and Sasha. It's a good story right now. They've been the two best. It makes sense. I just don't want to see them tie them up for too long. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't want that to be like a long thing where they do have all the gold. I don't think that ever really works when you do it for a long term. Short term though, I think that the image of the two women holding 4 belts in the short term, I think is awesome. I love the look of it. And it really plays in, that's something only a heel could do. Only a heel could really rock that many belts, honest to God.
Yeah, you don't want to face doing that. It's just kind of overkill. But it's the 2-woman power trip at the moment. They own everything.
Yeah, they're paying homage to Daddy Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah,
but I think
Asuka,
I think it's gonna be so sweet when Asuka just rips through the both of them. And that accomplishes so much. You get the belt back on her, which opens her up to more things. You sort of keep, you could definitely tease some tension between Bayley and Banks in there, and then there you go. And then you have Shayna waiting, you have Nia Jax waiting, and matches that as what I think Nia and Sasha. I think Shayna and Sasha, they'd both be great matches, but I don't think it would be any worse throwing Asuka in there. We've seen Asuka have great matches with the both of them. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think that but I do think ultimately it's one of those things where whatever way they go, I think they've put themselves in a good spot to where you could sort of do a couple different things.
Asuka and Baszler is something that's just like oofed. Like that mouth-watering to me.
2 eras of NXT really clashing.
Finally colliding. Like they haven't touched.
They really have not. They haven't had a one-on-one encounter, have they?
I don't think they've had any kind of match together.
Damn.
They've never been in the same match. I don't believe in any capacity. I could be wrong, but from my understanding, they've never touched.
Was Asuka in the Elimination Chamber or no?
Oh, okay. They've touched there. Baszler and
but that was
Asuka
very
touched.
brief. Obviously, that was
it wasn't
in service of a larger story.
Teaser. It's like that's the only time then they have, and I guess seeds planted.
They're just 2 brutal fighters.
Could you imagine how stiff that match would be? And I mean that in a good way.
I'd be hurting just watching. You have the buzzsaw style of Asuka, the kicks, the strikes, and the cage fighter style, the submissions of Shayna Baszler. 2 styles I know Shayna Baszler isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I love watching her work.
I love watching Shayna talk,
anyone.
Dude. She's a great talker, and people don't talk about her promos enough. They're really good.
Oh yeah, I think she's true. I think she's she's in such a short. Obviously, we look at Ronda as someone who's excelled in such a short span of time. Shayna hasn't been in the business that long herself, and she came in from day one. She got into that Mae Young Classic, rode right to the championship. Didn't win, but rode right to the championship. Showed up on NXT and just laid waste to everybody. Held that belt forever. And now she's here, and it's only a matter of time before she gets her hands on Raw or SmackDown, Women's Gold, whatever happens. But you can't keep her out of the scene for long.
No, and then you've got the element of who will Bayley work with at SummerSlam, because you would imagine Bayley would defend. I guess the obvious answer is Naomi. However, I feel like you're backing yourself into a corner there, because I don't think Naomi will dethrone Bailey, and then you have everyone kind of on that bandwagon of Naomi. I just feel like that'll be a little sour, so I don't think that'd be the smartest thing to do, to be completely honest. But then who else really does Bailey have to work with? She's kind of worked with everybody that
I
is
think
in
I was gonna
Banks.
say, I think she's worked with everybody on SmackDown.
Maybe there's a Dana Brooke we haven't really seen, but then do you really want to see that? She's worked with Tamina, she's worked with Nikki Cross, she's worked with Alexa Bliss, who we'll talk about in a minute. She's worked with Naomi, she's worked with Carmella. She's kind of, to be honest,
I think
run through that division.
I wouldn't mind seeing Bailey, Carmella. I know we've gotten pretty much everything though, and that's a testament. You know, she's been champion for so long, and you can't say they haven't given people chances, because all those women you just listed have had title matches.
The list goes on. Like, she's worked with everybody. I know Naomi is the obvious choice, but I just don't think it's the smartest thing to do. If Naomi's not going to win, I don't think she should be in the title picture, because people will just kind of shit on it if she doesn't win. That's how I see it.
And you could sit on her for a minute. You could cool. You could have her waiting, and then whenever, if we do get the blow up between Sasha and Bailey and the belt changes there, then you have Naomi waiting as the number one contender right off the bat.
Yep. So that's how I see that. Then you've got the Women's Tag Team Championships. They were teased on Raw this week that they will also be defending them at SummerSlam. I guess the only way to go would be Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan.
Love it.
Not mad at that. Not mad at that.
I was a big Riot Squad guy, especially when they started on SmackDown. Really, just sort of were turning their wheels in the sand. Got moved to Raw, and then I thought they really just burst onto the scene. I thought they did a lot. I thought they could have been
way bigger. Way bigger than what they were.
I thought they could have been dark horses to win that first chamber. Well, not the first chamber match, but the chamber match for the women's tag titles. Yeah. I had them thinking as a dark horse maybe, but it's cool to see them back together. Obviously, we don't have Sarah Logan right now, but Liv and Ruby, and they've undergone such, Liv in particular, such a career metamorphosis since the Riot Squad last rode together. Obviously Ruby missed a lot of time with injury, and Ruby's been someone I think we've all had earmarked for greatness for a while now. I know I have. I love
Everyone
Ruby Riott. I think she's so good.
Me too. She's a really, really, really solid performer. But I think that would be the way to go there if you're going to have the Women's Tag Team Championships defended at SummerSlam, would be Ruby and Liv. So we'll see how that all plays out. I did mention Alexa Bliss before. It would be silly not to talk about what happened at the end of SmackDown. Something that actually shocked us. And a really good episode of SmackDown last week, I will just put out there. But something that actually grasped people's attention, had people leaving on a cliffhanger and actually wondering what's going to happen next. And actually seeing The Fiend do the mandible claw on Bliss is something too. A really cool little ending to SmackDown after Nikki kind of pushed Bliss away and then teasing something to come to an end of that. But does the involvement of Alexa Bliss getting attacked by The Fiend, does that add a level of excitement that's kind of, I feel at least, maybe it's just because I'm not a fan of Braun Strowman, but a level of excitement to that feud that was missing. Does that add that, or do you still not really care that much?
I mean, Bliss is a bigger star than Braun Strowman. I think Bliss Bliss is probably a bigger star than Bray Wyatt, in all honesty. I think.
Jeez,
yeah,
that's a hot take.
I think Bliss just oozes star power in a way that obviously The Fiend is great and The Fiend's been great, but I think Alexa Bliss is like a draw. I think Alexa Bliss is someone you want to pay attention to. And this is the last thing I expected. I honestly figured when she showed up at the Swamp fight, it was just going to be like a little cameo, sort of a little tongue-in-cheek nod to, Braun and Bliss teaming up in the Mixed Match Challenge. And I didn't like it because I thought that's what they were going to do. That's all it was going to be. And I didn't think it made much sense. But if they're going to come back to it and they're going to bring Bliss into the story and tell another chapter, turn the page, so to speak, then that definitely has my attention. I don't know where they're going to go with it. Maybe they could bungle it. They could. It's possible. But, I'm definitely intrigued, more so than I was probably this whole time. I'm honest.
Me too. Cool ending too, by the way. The visual of it, the sell of it, everything kind of happening and being like, is he going to do it? Is he not going to do it? And then him doing it to kind of let SmackDown roll off into the sunset for that week. I I liked it. I really did like it.
That's the best use of the Fiend. When you see the Fiend, attack someone for the first time, it's always crazy. When he pops up somewhere unexpected, like when he popped up behind Cena on that SmackDown before Mania, that was crazy. When he popped up for the first time ever against Finn Balor, that was crazy. But you see him do the same things with the same people. Like he's been in the feud with Strowman, he's done a bunch of different things with Braun Strowman now, and it gets old. It doesn't hit the same. So to see, you see something genuinely surprising again, like the Fiend coming out and hitting the mandible claw on Alexa Bliss, and something we haven't seen. We haven't seen him attack a woman. We haven't seen Bliss involved with this story outside of that little cameo in the Swamp Fight. So now this is a real story. It's not just a little tongue-in-cheek wink thing to the people who watch the Mixed Match Challenge. It's a real thing now, and now there's where did they go? Where does she play into? I'm assuming there's going to be another match between the two, and she's going to be involved somehow. It would be foolish not to at this point. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what does she help Braun? Does she help Bray? Does she help? Does she do something completely different? Who knows? She is the story right now.
Yeah, it's just more going to prove our point, or everyone's point, that the women are the main stars of WWE, and for good reason. They add more intrigue than a lot of the people wish they could, so that's a good thing. Let's focus for the next however long to kind of round out this episode, I guess, because we'll probably focus on for a little while, is Raw Underground. Let's just take us through this little journey. I woke up before Raw started, and there was a lot of talk of this new faction, and there was a lot of talk of this kind of Shane McMahon announcement happening on Raw. There was a lot of talk about that. WWE released something to say, like, Shane McMahon's going to be here. We don't know why. And then throughout Raw, they had this bodyguard at this closed room, and then they had all this stuff going on. And then Shane McMahon said, Raw Underground is coming to Raw at the top of the third hour. And it's this kind of grungy shoot fight thing. Well, not really a shoot fight, but proclaimed as a shoot fight thing at the PC with just a bunch of people fighting one another, and Shane McMahon is in charge. Mixed reactions would be a way to go, because not everyone's going to love it, not everyone's going to hate it. It's not going to be for everybody. It's not going to be but I think the general consensus is that we're not hating this because WWE is trying something different. There is a lot of problems with it. Frequent camera cuts is one of it, because it takes away that appeal of like this underground, you shouldn't know about it kind of deal. But I definitely didn't hate it. I think there's room to grow, and I think it's a cool idea that they could expand. I know that you're not a frequent viewer of Raw every single week, but I'm sure you've seen lots of stuff about Raw Underground. What's your initial kind of reaction to it?
So yeah, I'm definitely in the boat of I want to see more. I don't want to base an entire opinion off of the one show. And a mixed bag also, I think, really sums it up, because I think new is good. I think something different is good. I love Shane McMahon. I'm glad he's back on TV. Use him in some capacity when you can. Gotta love it. And I like that, you see guys sort of being, Dolph Ziggler was down there. Rowe, or I don't call him Rowe anymore. What's his name now? Eric. From the Viking Raiders was down there. You see it, and that huge guy whose name escapes me right now. He's not, he's new, but God, I forget his name. Big guy, and it's cool. It's gritty. It's new. It's different. I think the only thing that I kind of misses with me is I don't really like when they try to make wrestling seem like shooty. I don't.
I get that.
I'm not like someone who I think they're operating. They're aiming at the crowd, because there's definitely a lot. If you have the Venn diagram of MMA fans and WWE fans or wrestling fans in general, there's definitely a big overlap for sure. They're combat sports, obviously different, but same sort of style. But I'm a person who does not like MMA. I do not watch UFC or any of that, because I personally think that watching two dudes really fight each other is boring as shit. I think 9 times out of 10 UFC fights are boring. You obviously are going to get a great one every now and again, But like, yeah, and part of that is because you genuinely can't control what they're doing. They just go in there and they fight each other. If they don't hit each other for 5 minutes, that's because they're trying not to get hit themselves. Wrestling is different because everything is, well, for the most part, you script things out. Obviously, matches are called on the fly, but everything is sort of, scripted and choreographed, and you have things planned out. And as a result, you can make it look really awesome. I think wrestling matches are so much better looking than UFC fights. So I don't want to see them do the sort of UFC fight style thing down there. But I like the grittiness. I like the underground feel. I think you could still do like wrestling and like make it look kind of like stiffer, but not like necessarily UFC style, shoot style. If that makes sense.
It's weird. It's a weird in between that they're trying to go with. I'm like you though. I want to see more. I can't really base too much of an opinion on it because we've only seen it for maybe 15 minutes of the show.
Yeah,
but I'm at least intrigued. And again, none of us are hating on WWE for trying something different.
No, I mean it's out of the box, and I think if you're operating solely from a rating standpoint, like you want to get viewership, I'm pretty sure viewership was up for at least that third hour. I'm pretty sure they got viewers, so you can't knock them for it. Obviously, you're gonna have the people shitting on it because it's a little silly, I guess. But wrestling is silly inherently, so I don't think you can take that route. And I think and I also think you bring in guys and you let them do sort of different things. Like you had the Hurt Business was down there, and you have.
By the way, sorry to chime in, but that's a great name for a stable.
It really is a great name for it, and that's a great looking. That's just a great stable, honestly. Like just guys that really like badass dudes. MVP, Shelton, Lashley, two dudes that will just beat the shit out of you. And that makes sense because that's what this is all about. You're beating the shit out of people. And I'm interested to see who else journeys to Raw Underground. I think it could exist as like a weird little alternate world down there. Kind of like what I envisioned and this is a much different thing. But when they first unveiled the 24/7 championship, I didn't envision it as its like own division necessarily. I envisioned it as like something where like people would just sort of dip in and out. Like, I honestly thought we might see, like, fringe main eventers and stuff just sort of get involved, maybe even, like, on accident in the 24/7 title run. Didn't really happen, but I think we're going to see guys, like, that are big names that are just going to show up every now and again, not, like, be central parts of it. You're going to have guys that, like, their focus is underground. But, like, God, could you imagine if, like, Lesnar shows up? Could you imagine if, like, Drew McIntyre shows up to WWE or to Raw Underground? Like Matt Riddle. I saw someone say, like, what if we got Lesnar and Riddle in the underground? And I was like, I'll literally explode.
Yeah, I would like to see. I mean, I'm on the same. I'm with you. I think not everyone's going to be a central part of it, but they're just going to kind of pop in, like Ziggler and like stuff like that. I'm here for it though. At this stage. Yeah. I think it's going to be one of those things, I tweeted this, that it's going to get a lot of attention for like 3 to 4 months, and then it's going to become non-existent after that. It's not long-term, this thing, I don't think.
That's the thing, is it doesn't have to be long-term. No. And WWE, not necessarily always the best at doing long-term stuff, but if you want an example of some long-term storytelling they're doing, we'll just go back to McAfee and Cole, because those two have been busting each other's chops for years now. If you watch the watch-alongs and the pre-shows, they hate each other. Or at least they play it up on TV like they hate each other. So don't say WWE can't tell a long-term story, because they lay the seeds, they lay the groundwork. You don't know it, but it's there. So I wouldn't be surprised if this we're looking at Raw Underground, not necessarily in the same light, but I think we'll be talking about it in some capacity for a while. It might be the start of something new, something completely new.
Yeah, who really knows? Maybe it will pop off. Who really knows? But again, I'm definitely interested in WWE trying something new that isn't like just completely stupid. Like they're actually just trying something different, trying to make Raw. What would be the word? A little more raw, I guess. I
remember when remember when they were kind of making like the third hour of Raw a little different, like with like some sort of different camera work, different lighting.
Yeah.
That was like kind of fun. Remember this is kind of unrelated, but remember when the first Raw of like the Heyman regime, quote unquote, where you had Strowman and Lashley and they drove each other through
Yeah.
the lighting board, and
Yeah.
you had Corey Graves like dropping the holy shit, and it seemed different, and that
Seemed a
I
little
think
more edgy. Maybe.
yeah, I think you could be a little edgy without being like Attitude Era
Yeah.
vulgar.
I
I
agree.
definitely think you could inject a little bit of like pizzazz into the product. I call it the product. I hate myself. I
Oh shit.
into the show. I think you could make it a little more, a little hipper without being like over the top with it. Because I don't think we want the Attitude Era back. I think wrestling is honestly in a better place now. Obviously, you don't have the same star level guys as you did back then, but I think that wrestling is just in a better spot right now. I think they're relying on better things to get over with the crowd.
Yeah.
So
Instead of just saying, cool hip words and
yeah,
and trying to shock people, just shock people in the sense of like, oh, we said this or we did this or we're a little risque. Which wrestling's always going to have in a little sense, I think, though.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it always will. Every time someone says the word bitch, you're gonna get a pop. That's never gonna change. I pop for it.
Because I guess I'm just an idiot that's just like, oh my god, he said bitch. I'm just here for it.
That's a bad word, and he said it, or she said it, or whoever said it. They said a bad word. But I think a little bit of edge can't hurt, and I miss Edge. I wish he was back, but he's recovering.
Yeah, but I'm again I'm excited for certain things. I'm excited for SummerSlam. SummerSlam should be, well, it's shaping up to be a fairly good show. We're just a couple of weeks out from SummerSlam. I'm intrigued with some things that are happening. One more thing I want to talk about. I know this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, but that's okay. One more thing I want to talk about is Sonya and Mandy. Now, the only reason I want to do this is because we had a little bit of like a dip with their story. They kind of were both off television for a little while. I'm assuming something to do with probably COVID. I'm not saying they had COVID, just COVID-related things. Maybe they didn't want to be at TV. Maybe they elected not to. I don't really know. But this week we've seen them back, and Sonya Deville cut Mandy Rose's hair. Now, a lot of people have speculated that maybe we're going to get hair versus hair at SummerSlam, and one of them's going to lose their hair. Now, first and foremost, the Mandy and Sonya story has been really good. Again, it took a dip, but I think I think they picked up in a nice fashion. Hair versus hair. Is that something that's realistic to you with the two ladies involved?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of wish they would do something like hardcore. I wish there would be, throw them in a street fight, throw them in some sort of match like that. I'm not like a big hair, big hair versus hair, mask versus mask, lucha de apuestas as it's called in Mexico. I'm not a big fan of that sort of style, unless it's like just something crazy, I think it's worked before, and I think it'll probably work again. Honestly, I'm not saying that it's not going to work. It's just not like my forte. I've seen good hair, but I also think like for a hair versus hair match to work, someone has to have like legendary hair.
I think the thing is with this is that Sonya wants to make Mandy Rose as ugly on the inside. As ugly on the outside as she is on the inside. So maybe taking away...
that regard, that actually does make a lot of sense. It does make total sense. So I can't knock it. I'm not like super looking forward to it. I think they can have just a really good match, though. Like if they have like a really great match and then one of them gets their haircut, I'm fine with it. I don't care.
Let's be honest, though. I could not see Mandy Rose losing. I just couldn't see it. Sonya would be the one to lose, I think.
Yeah, probably. I don't think they're going to take Mandy Rose's hair from her. Maybe
who knows? Maybe Mandy Rose pitched this as well. She seemed to pitch this whole story, she said, with Otis and the eventual story with Sonya. So maybe Mandy Rose said, hey, I want to be on SummerSlam. I'll shave my head. I don't care.
Well,
Who
yeah, I
knows?
mean, it's very reminiscent of what I know. And I know this is some. I know you love Molly Holly.
Yes, she did
Uh,
the same thing. What a queen.
and I was gonna say she wanted the women to get some attention and some
On
love.
WrestleMania, they wanted to have the women's title defended at Mania. Molly was
Yeah,
like,
so
"Well, fine,
and
okay."
it sucks that that's what they had to do. But yeah, I mean,
Shows you love the business. It shows you
I was
love.
gonna say, yeah, it's dedication to the business, and I think Mandy is someone that a lot of times unfairly gets like perceived as someone who doesn't quite love the business because she's objectively a very, very beautiful woman.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people just don't look at her as like a wrestler. They look at her as a model. I
Mhm.
think because where some
I
of us are
agree.
still stuck in that mindset. So I think that I think I could definitely see her wanting to go above and beyond to prove how much she loves this. And I
Mm.
damn I think it's become pretty clear to me over the last couple of months how much she loves this business. But if she wants to prove it, she wants to do this. Go for it.
I agree.
Anything. I
I
think.
I'm a Mandy Rose fan. I like Mandy
Well,
Rose.
I
I've
know.
always,
I
I've
know.
always liked her.
I'm a Sonya Deville fan. You know.
Yeah, I'm a fan of both of them, so I'm all for it. I'm
And
all
I and
for
I
it.
and I will echo what you said. This feud has been really, really at one point probably the best thing going in the WWE. Obviously, like you said, it dipped, and that's probably not their fault. That's probably a health thing, or that's probably precautionary. It's not like they just stop being. I'm sure that there was a reason for them not being on TV as much. But you pick it back up, and it's still it is still one of the best feuds in the business, or at least in the WWE right now. I'd stake that claim.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I am what I'm. If we do get that, or if we get, obviously we're gonna get another match out of the two. But if we do get that, at least it's something different. That's different from anything else that's going on right now. So I'm a big fan of that. Other than that, there's not really too much more to talk about with SummerSlam because they haven't really announced a lot. We can just kind of assume what we're getting. But I'm excited.
Aren't we getting? Well, first off, I wanted to say this a minute ago. Maybe they'll do an eye for an eye match, and then that led me to what
Oh
I was going
yeah,
to say.
Dominic.
Also, say, aren't we getting Seth Rollins and Dominic
Yeah,
Mysterio at
forgot about
SummerSlam?
that. My bad. That's on me. Of course, that's probably what I'm most excited about, to be completely honest, because 15 years later, when Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio had a ladder match at SummerSlam for the custody of one Dominic, he is now wrestling Seth Rollins, who, by the way, we've said this a lot. We don't need to drain on about this, but Seth is one of the best. That's going to get Dominic to a really good match, and I don't think people are like, don't sleep on this match at all. It's going to be a lot of fun, Dominic and Seth.
Oh
I
yeah,
can
I
see
mean,
it being a lot of fun.
yeah. On one hand, yeah, you have Seth, who's a guy that works so well with just about everybody, and he'll get a good match out of everybody. On the other hand, you have Dominic Mysterio, who presumably has been trained by his father in some capacity,
Yeah.
as well as others. But like he's training. He's not like he's not just like a random person they plucked off the street because of his last name. He's a wrestler in training.
Yeah.
And then everything we've seen, obviously, we've only seen him in the ring in very, very small amounts. Not really wrestling, but he's hit the 619 a bunch of times. Looks good. Hit a frog splash on Brock Lesnar at whatever pay per view they fought at. Was that Survivor Series, Lesnar and Mysterio?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was a good match, by the way. Just saying, but
It was a good match.
we saw a lot. We've seen Dominic go, and yeah, they're gonna have a good match, and. I just like I'm like fantasy booking this in my mind. You had the custody of Dominic ladder match 15 years ago. Great match. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Obviously a wild story behind it, but a great match. They should just do a custody of Rey Mysterio's eye ladder match.
Where the
Just
fuck
for a
is
little
Vicky?
bit of,
I'm excited for that. That whole program has been fucking crazy, but I've enjoyed it. As wacky as it's been,
oh yeah,
I've really enjoyed it.
This was like a test for me. Like, yeah, you put Rey Mysterio in something. He's my favorite of all time. Yeah, how ridiculous can you make it? Like, how ridiculous is too ridiculous for me? And we haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, I don't even know if we've peaked yet. Who really freaking knows what's going on with that
I'm
story?
Sure there's more. Like, is Ray gonna come? I mean, I know that they've been providing updates on on WWE's Twitter that like his optic nerve or whatever didn't come undone or something. I
So he's
don't
gonna
really
have his
know.
eye, basically. That's just their cop out of being like, it's okay, Ray's gonna have two eyes.
Yeah. But like, what if he came back as a blind wrestler? Because like, obviously, you know, he had the eye injury to his the first time around. He put him in the steps. Then the second time, what if he came back as blind but like was still really good at wrestling? There's so many crazy things they could do.
Oh my god, you're opening up something else. Who knows though? I'm excited for it all. I really am. So we're excited for SummerSlam for the most part, and we're excited for stuff that's happening with NXT, and everything else going on in wrestling at the moment. It's been a year, but we've also had some cool stuff. So that will kind of wrap things up for this week's episode of Wrestling Reverb. We'll be, of course, back next Friday with more probably SummerSlam chat, because we'll probably know more about it next week. Also next week, me and Kevin are going to run down through some of our favorite SummerSlam moments, because SummerSlam's been going through for a long time, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff like Eddie and Ray that we could talk about, Kevin, to go through and go back over some SummerSlam. So that's coming next week. Other than that, we will continue to be all over Twitter. Well, I will. Kevin will tweet. Maybe Kevin will find out how to play Fall Guys. Who knows? Look at that. Me taking it full circle. Look at that. What an exceptional host move there.
Yeah, honestly, only you, man. Only you could pull that off.
Who knows? So an update. Maybe Kevin will somehow get Fall Guys in the next week. Who knows? Maybe Kevin will love it. He'll look at all of it, all these articles so much, and see it all over Twitter that he has FOMO and he doesn't want to miss out. Really
I've already got FOMO. I'll tell you right now. I'm not gonna get a PlayStation for the full purpose of playing this game, but I am a little jealous right now. Like, people seem to be having the time of their goddamn lives playing this game.
Trust me. As soon as I'm done recording, you know I'm gonna get back on this game and play it all afternoon.
Xbox never has PlayStation has PlayStation rolls out exclusive
Spider-Man and Last of Us.
Xbox doesn't. I wish they... So I could play a game and be like, oh, Josh, you can't play this game because you're a PlayStation boy.
I'm a proud PlayStation boy, so haha. Blue all the way over to green, that evil green.
Green's my favorite color.
So green is my favorite color too, but not
on
an Xbox.
Shut up.
Shout out to the color green. We really like you. See, I mean, after 103 episodes of this show and the countless other shows that I do, you'd think I'd have an outro all kind of down packed by now, but it's the one thing I'm just real shit at.
I think it's become sort of like the thing. I think your outro is not having an outro.
It's just like ending. It's been like, well, bye. Like, it's just like, we're going to talk about the color green. Like, how does that even come up? Like, I just don't understand. But, I guess until next week, if you're not listening to anything else or not watching my Twitch streams or anything like that, enjoy your week, and we will see you next Friday on more Wrestling Reverb.